Genties and ladymen. Oh, wait, no, that's not right. That's not what I meant to say. I should start with ladies. Ladymen and genties. Oh wait, no, that's not right either. Ah, whatever. You know exactly what I mean. I mean you. You are welcome to watch this new iWord video in which we continue playing in my Survival Forever Minecraft world. And we start this episode in the same place as we started the previous episode, in this giant cave area. Because in between these two episodes, I did a little bit of work over here. I have added some dirt at the edge, basically refined the edge of the cliff and made it look good. Additionally, I also did some work on the upper floor. However, that work on the upper floor is a lot better visible from up on the top over here. As you can see, I just used a very similar style as what we have beneath us. Also, I have added these fences here, but I am not sold on these yet. I feel like I'm unsure whether or not I like these. I am leaving them up for now, just so I can decide what I like and what I do not like. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, in this episode, I plan to do two things. The first thing that I want to do in this episode is build the blue house, because right now we have this awkward and strange, like, unfinished wall over here, and I feel like it is time to fix this, and that is happening in this episode. And secondly, there is all of this redstone mess that I am going to explain to you, but perhaps it is a lot better to show you what that actually does. That mess of redstone I just showed you is essentially an explainable version of the redstone mechanism for this build right here. So these are our basic farms for beetroots, potatoes, carrots and wheat. But the cool thing is we have some villagers that do the crop farming for us, and then we collect those farmables and we then store them inside of minecarts like this. And because this mechanism is actually quite complicated, I feel like I should explain every detail of it. And that is exactly what you will be seeing in this episode. So, genties and ladymen, can we please play the intro? Last time, when we built the house with the green roof, we also started to join it next to this house, the blue house. And we left it very unfinished, like it is right now. And the idea is that we want to do something about that right now. I want to construct this blue house. And I already have some ideas of what I want to do with this. So basically I want to extend it over here and then over to this side up to somewhere around here, I think. And for most of the buildings we have, I incorporated some function or some reason to be inside. Now the orange building is a bad example because that one does not have it, but let's go into this one. So over here we have the creepers that we can watch from the inside, for example. And the yellow house has the zombie villager curing thing. So today I feel like we should also add a reason for us to visit this later on. And I thought about adding a flower farm, because we are in a flower forest biome over here. And I feel like I might want to try and squeeze in a flower farm in this building. That will be quite a challenge to design, so let's get started. Alright, I have built a good foundation for this building. And the thing that I have built here is essentially the outer walls of this bottom floor. And this foundation gives us a good basis to continue constructing the rest of the house. It gives us a nice size to work with. So what I've did is I've added a nice big window over here, but more importantly, in this middle section, I have added 2 big walls with no windows at all. And I have done that because if we want to construct that flower farm idea that I had in mind, these walls without windows can give us more potential options to hide redstone if we need to do so. Over here, I made it come forward a little bit so we get a nice corner over here where we can build something cozy. But you might notice that on this side, the wall is open. And it might be a little bit ironic, but the reason we do this project is because we had an ugly open wall. And one of the first decisions I made is we are going to construct an ugly open wall. And that is on this side, because I feel like the next building in the city village project should be attached next to this one we are building right now. So it means that this wall right here will be basically a dividing wall between this building and the next one. So, you know, it won't be finished because I can't do all the buildings at once. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue constructing this building. Alright, I have managed to construct a simple flower farm within the confines of this building. So let's quickly check out what I have built over here. So this right here is the interface through which we are going to interact with the farm. It has an input and an output. And the input accepts bone meal. This farm runs as long as it has bone meal, and it will keep using bone meal until it runs out. And as long as this farm is running, this lamp is lit up. And the output, which in this case is pink tulips, will arrive out in here. And below our feet, we can actually see the farm doing its job. We can see it bone mealing the grass and then using water to collect the flowers. The seeds that get collected will be composted and turned into bone meal to then reuse in this farm. I will not cover the exact way this farm works because I have already built an exactly identical farm over at the top of the stairs right here. And back then I already explained how it works. So we have a similar thing. Here we put bone meal and here the flowers will come out. And if you want to know how it works, then just watch that video, because we already have quite a lengthy redstone explanation ahead of us. Spoilers. Anyway, let's go back to this build first. So all of these smooth stone blocks are kind of required to make the redstone of this work. Now, that does not mean that these have to be smooth stone blocks. A lot of these can and will be replaced with blocks that help me decorate this house. And that is probably what I will be going to do next. Try and somehow incorporate this monstrosity in the interior of this house and the exterior as well, because over here we have this weird column that we have to disguise a little bit. So let me try and figure out if we can do that. I came down here to turn the creeper farm off, and I have to say, this creeper farm is amazing. It is completely filled with gunpowder, so we will not run out of gunpowder anytime soon. This has filled itself like 10 times faster than I would have hoped and expected it to do so. But everything in this episode seems to lead to more redstone explanation. I can confirm that the automatic shutoff is not working. There should be a mechanism in this where if it is full, it should just stop doing the thing on its own. And that is not working, though that should be a very simple fix, however. I just thought I'd mention that. Oh yeah, I didn't really mention why I was turning the creeper farm off. Well, over here in the corner, there is this tubing, And the creepers actually pass through here, so it's really crucial for there to be no creepers passing by when I'm opening this. I think I have figured out a relatively good way of hiding the technical part of this flower farm. Let's quickly walk through the things that I have changed. So over here I have hidden the redstone a little bit. It might feel a little bit cramped over here, a little bit claustrophobic, but that's fine. I can think of things to work with over here. Over here we just have a wall. Over here I already did some decorating with some chests and some little things. I managed to get a relatively spacious room on this side over here, which is kind of important because we have the big window over here. And then over here we have this room. So over here we have this oak log here, this horizontal oak log. And I actually love the way this turns out. Because in real life, often in these old medieval-ish houses, they have like these logs like this on the ceiling. And if you're tall, these are really annoying because you always bump your head in them. And I really think this mimics that feeling very well. And then over here we have the entrance to here. I even used the new block, the shelf block. And I think I am going to add some helmets to this as a sort of hat rack to take your hats when you go out. And then over here I have also changed this into a furnace place and hidden the pipe with the creepers. There is also an upstairs area where I changed a little bit. I think most of the things I have done is just place in this wall with two windows on the side here. And then over here, we have quite a lot of space to work with, so I don't think this will be the most difficult part to design. Over here was this area where I was a bit concerned about the windows all being at a different height, so it being very difficult to organize where my floor should be. And you can see that because I've spammed some stairs basically, but I think it kind of works. I think this is a okay way of doing it. All of the windows are accessible. And then over here you can just go to the old building that we had made in the past. Right, I think next up it is just construct the next floor up. The next floor has been built, and there were some problems here and there I had to figure out how to do, but overall I would say this floor was relatively straightforward to build. And with the redstone that we now still have on the top over there, I think I am just going to hide that in an unused attic area. Because I think right now it is actually time to construct the roof. That is also why I didn't use these oak framing pillars all the way till the top, because I feel like we should add the roof right now. So add a roof like there and like there. But let's take a look on the inside, because actually I have changed quite some things on the inside as well. First of all, there's a wall here. That's new, I think. All of this on this side over here is new, I think. And then over here you can go up. This is new for sure. I think over here we are going to add like a little bit of an area, but it won't even connect it up to this thing, because I feel like it's going to be too difficult to actually figure out if we can make a room over here. In fact, on the old part, we already have like a lot of unused space on the top, and I'm just going to continue doing that because that is the easiest thing to do, and you won't notice in the end result at all. Right, there is this area over here. A lot of this is new as well, I think. You can go up here. This was already there. Added a painting, because behind this painting you can get access to the behind the scenes. I always like to do that. This was here, but I think maybe I have put in some more details over here. Alright, let's next up construct the roof actually. The house now has a roof built on top of it, complete with a chimney that produces smoke. That chimney, by the way, is aligned perfectly straight above the furnace we had earlier. That is a fun detail I like to add to my builds often. Now let's make a little tour around the building so I can show you all the different angles you can see the roof of from the ground. Though in reality from the ground there aren't very many angles where you can actually see the roof. You can only really see the roof from the sky, which is why we started this section on a pillar, so we are high up. On this side, however, there is something new compared to the last time I have shown you this build. This middle section right there is new. I tried doing the roof with just having 2 of these points, but it just didn't quite look right, and I tried various ways of fixing it, and this was the most satisfying way to make it look good in the end. Then over here, this side is less important because we are going to build future stuff over here, so it is also less refined. And then from this angle, you can't really see the roof at all, so again, it's not that important what it looks like from this side. And then we can loop back to the area basically where we started at. But, ladies and gentlemen, because the roof is now completed, that means that this building is reaching its completed status more and more quickly. There remains but one thing to do to make this house awesome, and that is add in the details. And adding in details is the single thing that I like to do the most in this game. So that is probably the thing that I will spend the most time on when building this. In this building, we can actually split that thing up into 2 parts. We have details on the inside and details on the outside. And I feel like for this build, I want to start with the interior. So that is what we are going to do now. Dear audience, I have completely decorated the interior of this house. Now, let's make a tour of the inside because I'm quite proud of how all of this looks. So if we go in, we have immediately a flower pot, a table over here, a light. Let's actually do the bottom floor first. Over here we have like a book thing and an armor stand. This was already here, added a jukebox. This right here is a very fancy room in my opinion. You have like this sitting thing with the beds. We have displayed an enchanted golden apple here because we've collected quite a few of those and there's no real point in collecting them just for the sake of collecting them. In my opinion, we should display the fancy things that we have found in our world. So here it is. Right, and there's the blue armor stand, some candles over here, the hat rack that I was talking about, so you immediately see that when you come in. We have a cake here next to the oven. Right, and with that I think we've covered the bottom floor, and now let's go up. There's a painting here. Actually, this is quite an interesting wall because usually when building stuff and designing stuff, you don't want a wall with an area this big that is just blank 1 block. But here it works. And this painting really like breaks up that wall. But even without the painting, it would have been fine. But I think the painting helps a lot. Various plants, as I usually do. Over here, I used more of these pink tulip flowers because this is the pink tulip farm. Another armor stand. This is, in my opinion, the best room in the entire house. Like this bedroom really worked out great with the green backdrop and then the double bed. Yep. Some extra chests over here. Another armor stand, an amethyst as decoration. Some more random chests as decoration. A skull. This was already here. The bed. Mushroom. Music disc on the wall. And I also added a door to the old building, so that it's sort of divided up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the last thing that remains is... oh no, there's actually one more thing I have to show. The top floor. We haven't covered that with the purple armor stand. We haven't gone up here, where we have the bunk bed, the clock, the like tools on the wall. I really like this wall. This is a nice wall with a lot of details. Another table thing, and then over here we have a little storage unit on the side where you're not really going to go in often. Alright, I think with that I did in fact cover all of the things. Yes, so obviously there is one more thing that remains, and that is decorating the outside. But I think I am going to let you wait a little bit longer, and first I am going to explain to you the redstone of that other thing that I showed you in the beginning. Alright. Let's now explain how the redstone for our farms mechanism with those minecarts works. Roughly speaking, the redstone for this build can be divided up into 4 parts. So you have the crafting part, the minecart jumpy part, the control part to turn the farms on and off, and the collection part. For clarity of the explanation, I think it is best to actually start with this part, the collection part, because I think this is the most straightforward to explain. There are phantoms. Let me first sleep though. The collection part of the redstone is relatively straightforward. We have a hopper minecart here that we can power, so it will go underneath the farmland on which the villager will do its farming things. So if we then throw the items on there, it will pick those up and it will go deliver them to the system. Now we can also turn this off to prevent the minecart noises and perhaps the lag as well from this minecart going around all the time. The minecart will then go over 2 hoppers right here that are actually item filters. Item filters work by having the hopper beneath them locked by powering it. And that one is locked as long as there is less than a certain amount of items in this top one. And we just fill all the slots with the item that we want to filter, and that way we can make only one type of item go in here. By doing this, on this side there will only be able to go wheat in this chest, and on this side the seeds. Now of course we can adapt this to filter as many things as we really want. And that is the collection part all done, because from here we can take these items and do whatever we want with them. And that, I think, leads me to the next part, which is the crafting part. And the crafting part takes items that you have filtered from the top, and it outputs the thing you are wanting to craft. Let's now take some wheat. And if I insert 3 wheat, it should produce a bread. Now, we didn't actually see what happened here, but if we insert 3 dirt, it won't do anything and it will actually get stuck. Because what happens is all the slots in here get filled, and that causes this thing to loop, repeatedly powering this observer. So basically, as long as its slots are filled, it will keep trying to craft things. Now, an important note to add to that is that it will only really do that as long as this thing is not full. So when this is full, there's no point in trying to craft, because there's no more capacity to do things. So when this is powered, where I'm walking right now, that will disable the looping. Now let's pull these things out. The way this looping gets started is by using a comparator on the crafter. So the strength of the redstone output right here is equal to the amount of slots occupied in this interface right here. So by just pulling a redstone wire that is 9 long, you can check whether or not all the slots are occupied. And if they are, we turn this thing off, and turning that off will make this start looping, starting the crafting. And I think with that, we've basically explained everything for the crafting. Mr. Iron Golem, why are you this rude? I was just about to explain this part of the redstone, and you just messed up the alignment of this minecart. How could you do this? Alright, let's now explain the minecart jumpy bit. So we have a minecart with a chest sitting on a slime block right here, and we can actually put our items with a hopper inside of it. This is actually a mechanism I don't see that many people use, especially not without rails. Anyway, the intended use is that we should be on the top there somewhere, and then we can tune the no block, and that will make the minecart pop up to the top, and then after a slight delay it will drop back down again. The way this works is we use an observer to detect the tuning of the no block. And then we use this contraption right here to make the length of the pulse exactly 4 redstone ticks, using this repeater set to its 4 tick mode. And then from that we feed it into this loop of comparators. This loop of comparators basically functions as a timer to determine how long the minecart should stay on the top. The way this works is these comparators will cycle the power around, and in doing so, the strength of the power will slowly diminish until it reaches 0, which is unpowered. You can extend the timer, make it longer, by using more comparators than this. We can then use this extended signal and feed it into this observer. The function of this observer is really crucial. And to explain that, we first have to look over here. We actually power this jump mechanism twice. Once for moving the minecart up and once for moving it down. And if you watch closely when the minecart falls down, you can see that actually this slime block will also get extended when it falls down. That may seem a bit weird, but actually it doesn't matter, because it's just the exact same sequence as the launching up. Only in this case the movement of the slime block doesn't matter, because when the minecart falls and then the piston retracts, it will just stay sitting on the slime block. Because we have to power this thing twice, we need this observer, because when we do the system, you can see that this redstone wire right here will stay powered for the entire duration that the minecart is up on the top, or roughly the same time. And that is useful because this observer right here will trigger twice. Once when this redstone wire turns on, and then again when it turns off. So we have our 2 pulses we need to do this. After this observer, we do the same trick as we did earlier to make the signal a certain length, and then we do, in my opinion, the least beautiful bit of the redstone in the entire contraption. The length of the pulse that we need to make this work seems to be 8 redstone ticks instead of 4. And this right here will make the pulse the appropriate length that we need. Though from a redstone engineering perspective, I don't think this is a very clean way of doing it, but it is the fastest or quickest way I could think of, and it works. So, you know, just use this. This pulse with the correct length then gets immediately sent with the appropriate delay to the piston with the slime block. This will launch the minecart. But on the other hand, that signal will also get sent, be it through a torch, to this top part, which will move this block out of the way. And this mechanism, I think we should explain both the opening and closing of. So when we unpower it, the block will retract. And the way that works is, first, this block right here will get unpowered. And that means this block will get pulled down. And then with a delay of 2 ticks, with this repeater, these 2 pistons will get unpowered, moving the blocks to the side, like that. And when we then power it, first this block will get powered, but that doesn't matter, because this piston is now in a different location, so it will not get powered. And then a bit later, this block will get powered, powering these 2 side pistons, and that will push the piston and the block over here. But because this block was already powered, this one will now extend, pushing the block up. So this will work both in the extension and retraction. And that happens at the same time as this, so the minecart will land on the top. We just need this redstone torch because the default state is where the block is extended. Now, in all of this explanation, there is actually one important note that I would like to make. And that is that if you get the minecart misaligned on the top, you can actually get into the problem where the default position of the minecart is flipped. Let's actually see if we can demonstrate that. Yeah, so I have the flipped orientation right here. So if we now push the button here, or tune the no block, you can see the minecart drops down, and then it will stay down for a short while before it goes back up. So that means if you misalign the minecart on the top, so it misses the hole, you can get into this problem, and that is actually not that easy to fix. So be a bit aware that you shouldn't push this minecart around on the top. Additionally, I actually think you can have 2 minecarts here. You can have one on the bottom and one on the top. And what will then happen is you will swap their positions. So that also works. Oh, never mind, I take back my words. It seems to work with 1 minecart only. That is actually very interesting, because here is proof that it actually works with 2 armor stands in an earlier build that we have done in our world. Let's now proceed to the last part of this long and complex explanation of redstone of this project. I don't think I have shown it in this episode, but the way we control which farms are on or off is by, again, using a minecart with a chest that nicely pops up so we can access it. So the items in that minecart kind of represent the farms that are on. So if the wheat is in the minecart chest, that means the wheat farm is on. If it is not in there, that means that the wheat farm is turned off. In this mock-up contraption, I have this minecart chest sitting on top of a slime block and a piston, just like we had in the jumpy part. But in this section, I haven't actually hooked up this piston to anything. It is just illustrative, so you can orient yourself where this would be. The way we actually control this is when we have done our jumpy thing and the minecart has landed here, we want to check the contents of this minecart chest. But there's a problem, and that problem is that this minecart is sitting on top of a slime block, which isn't a very convenient spot of checking its contents. So instead, what we do is we push it off onto a track where we can do whatever we want with it, and then we will bring it back. Let's demonstrate that. So when it's back on its position, it will move along the track and it will go back to its starting position. Let's actually first cover what happens on this track. So the minecart moves over an item filter. So this item filter is for wheat, and only wheat will enter, and then it will end up over here. We need an item filter because in the real version of the farm, there's actually 4 different items that can go in here. And this item filter is required to be able to distinguish between the 4 different farms. We can actually control individually for all 4 of them if they are on or off. Now, when the minecart has run over this item filter and there was wheat in there, over here, the minecart is actually empty. And that's kind of important because when it goes back to its starting position, we actually want the wheat to be back in there. That is why if we put in a wheat over here, it will get moved to this hopper. And when the minecart then makes its way back and moves underneath this hopper, it will pick up this item once again, so it's in there when it goes back. Now, there's actually a second thing that happens when the minecart goes over this item filter and the wheat goes in. And to see that, you have to focus on the bottom left of the screen here when I put in this wheat. You can see this piston extended when I did that. And that is by sort of abusing how an item filter works. So this last redstone dust is almost always unpowered. Only when we put something in will it power, and that will also make this piston push. We'll come to what this does in a second. But essentially, the position of this block sort of represents if the farm is on or off. But first, I want to look at this pusher for the minecart, because it's a bit strange that we use 2 pistons for that, isn't it? Well, that is because we have a slime block over here, and that's also kind of why I use this slime block in the mockup. Oops, I broke the thing. Let's fix that first before we continue our explanation. So, where was I? Oh yeah, I was explaining why we need 2 pistons over here. So, imagine we only have this front piston and it is in this location. That would suffice to push this minecart off onto this rail. But there is a problem with that. And that is that this is a slime block. So if we push the slime block up to do the jumpy thing, and then pull it back down, the piston will get pulled down with the slime block to there. And that is bad. We don't want that. And in order to resolve this problem, we have to get a little bit creative. So that is why we have a double piston extender over here to push the minecart off. And the way that works is actually completely the same as the thing we had over there to push the block up so the minecart can rest on top. It's just sideways, basically. And with that, I have actually explained everything we do with minecart handling in this control part. But there is one important thing that I haven't explained to you yet, and that is how we actually use that information to control if the farm is on or off. And we do that by using this block right here. So we have this long timer basically that loops around, and this will make this be powered and unpowered at regular intervals. And if this block is here, this power will actually go through here, and this will send pulses to the collection part. So every time this clock does that, we make the minecart go. So depending on how fast we make that loop, we can alter the timing of how often we collect our items. But the important thing to note here is that this signal goes through this block right here. So if we are in this situation right here, you can see that the signal cannot go through. So we have essentially turned our farm off right now. And that is great because that means that in this case, you know, we turn the farm off. Only it is unclear when we should turn the farm off. So when should we extend this piston? Because in all of the minecart handling, we only had a check, is there wheat in the minecart? We don't really have a check, is there no wheat in the minecart? So again, we have to be a little bit clever. So what we do is when we do our jumpy thing, we also power this piston over here, turning the farms off. And only after we have done that, do we make the minecart go and do we decide, is there wheat in the minecart, making this piston push, and then we turn it back on. So that means that every time we push that, that button, every time we tune this no block, it will briefly turn all the farms off before turning the ones that are turned on back on again. Now, another thing I want to note is that if none of the farms are running, you can actually turn this off as well. I have a mechanism in the real version that actually does that, but it's a bit complicated to demonstrate exactly how it works right here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I have done the entire explanation of this redstone. Let me know if it was clear how everything worked, and let me know if you like this method of explaining redstone to you. I know that it was quite long and that makes this episode quite technical, but I do feel like this is what I want to do. I want to make the redstone of the things that I built in my world clear to everyone, so we have to take our time in explaining it. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the blue house in its finished state from the outside. I intentionally waited to show you this until it was nighttime because I feel like especially this little corner right here really stands out the most at nighttime. It works the best when it's dark outside. During the daytime it's good as well, but the nighttime will also show you where I have hidden some lighting that you might otherwise not notice. So obviously I have added a bunch of flowers and little details beneath all of the windows. So that's a thing, but this is a really nice area in my opinion. It's like a little sitting area with a table. I really like how this turned out. I added the firefly bush. And then if we go around to the other side, I've added some more bushes over here. We've added a balcony on the top over there. Let me show you that balcony. We can go on there in a second, but first we go around. I've added the new copper armor here. I really like that detail. Yep. And then lastly, we have a copy of the door that we have on the other side, because that one is the same as this one. All right, let's go to that balcony and let's show you what it is like when you are on the balcony. There we go. Now, the view is not very interesting at this point in time, but I am sure that in the future, be it the far future, that will eventually change. Now let's get back outside. With the completion of the blue house, I feel like we should also complete this video. This episode of my Survival Minecraft Let's Play was a bit of a special one, in the sense that the length of the video is a lot longer than usually is the case in this series. I did that because we had the long explanation of the redstone, and I feel like we should keep the videos balanced. And with balanced, I mean there should be some explanation of technical things in there, but there should also be some building in there. And I couldn't really get it done in the usual half an hour that I aim for. So that is why this episode today is a lot longer than the other ones. But that should intentionally be a one-off. Maybe in the future I will run into the same problem again and we will make longer videos again, but we'll see. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this video is long enough, let's end it here. With the end of an episode of our Survival Minecraft Let's Play, there comes the fact of the video. And the fact of this episode is that the hole in the cap of pens is intentionally there. It is there to prevent choking if you were to swallow the cap. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Also, I hope I can see you in a future episode. And as always, keep wondering.